And we are live with Rebekah Saltzman. Welcome, everybody. I'm Rebbetzin Bat-Chen Grossman from ConnectedForReal.com. And today we're going to be talking about marriage and organization because my specialty is marriage and Rebekah's is organization. And I think they go, they're really, they work really well together because Rebekah's is organization. And I think they go, they're really, they work. Okay. Sorry, noise. Yes. So they do work well together because they affect each other so much. You could be an organized person and your husband can be a non-organized person, and that can create a clash. And so, Rebekah, tell us a little bit about what you do and what you're up to.
All right. I'm Rebekah Saltzman, and I help people with that annoying, pesky stuff that's sitting around their house. And I help them get their clutter and get all the excess out of their life. I help you create the perfectly curated collection of stuff for your life. And I make sure that you know where it all is and how it's organized and where it goes when it's time to put it away. I also help small businesses organize, like startup businesses, organize themselves and streamline themselves so that they can be organized and run effectively, efficiently, and with automations in place so they don't have to do the same tasks over and over again. And that's sort of me in a nutshell.
I actually didn't know about businesses, and that is cool.
I'm actually writing a book about organizing for Jewish holidays and Jewish life cycle events. So, yay.
Yes.
Writing a book is hard and you have to be organized to do it, I think.
I'm so proud of you. I'm super excited. I think it started this year because of the loss of your mother, right?
Yeah, I'm doing it in memory of my mom who passed away in June. I'm almost done with the writing, just have a few more chapters to polish up, and hopefully it will be out in time for Hanukkah. Bezrat Hashem.
Ooh, that's so cool. Okay, so do you want to tell us now where people could pre-order?
So the pre-order isn't up yet, but if you want to get on the mailing list for the pre-order, when it's live, Bezrat Hashem next week, I will send you a message. You can head to balaganbegon.com/book. And I'll send you a
podcast. You forgot to tell us.
I do. I have a podcast called Journey to Organization. And this past week we put out episode 142, which was back to school during Corona.
Yes.
And whatever that means.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I listened to a bunch of your podcast episodes and they're so good. And they're yes. I like that you're so practical and so nice to those of us who are not perfectly there yet. And I think that's one of my problems is that I'm a perfectionist. So I want it perfect, and so I'm not even willing to start because it's just it's never gonna
you know what I always say, perfect is the enemy of done. If you want it to be perfect, like and people like mistakenly think that perfectionism means like you do everything perfectly, but for most people who are perfectionists, it's like you said, they just don't actually ever start because they think that they can't do something perfectly. And I feel like just starting makes a difference. It's like if you don't start, how will you ever make any progress?
You are right.
And you start somewhere.
I am always getting better and better at this, but this year and last year are my two like, woohoo, I did it years where I'm really like, just throw yourself in there. So I started my YouTube channel last year. And that was really scary because I wanted the videos to be perfect and and then one of my first videos was about perfection because I realized how important it is that I, just communicate that exact point.
Well, it's a really great segue to talk about marriage because a lot of times we expect our partners to also be perfect, and we're not perfect, they're not perfect, and the little things might annoy us or irritate us. It's like, why can't they, if they took something out, why can't they put it away? And that's a big problem for a lot of people.
We just got the greatest comment. I have to put it up there. I love it. Thank you,
That's a good comment.
You don't have to choose between your clutter and your marriage. You can have both. Chava, I give you permission.
You can. I think that like the thing about clutter is like, first of all, everybody has their threshold of like what is considered acceptable. In our house, it's basically nothing. And it's not, the threshold is like 0. Like you can't have any clutter.
Oh, well, you're okay with that?
You know, it's funny. Everybody thinks like, oh, it's all me in my house, but actually my husband is super clean. And the thing is I just want to point out that there is a huge difference between being clean and being tidy. Like he likes, the kitchen counters to be clean and he wants the floor to be clean. I'm less particular about if the floor is actually clean as long as everything's put away. Do you know what I mean? Like if it was up to me, like you couldn't necessarily eat off our floors, but if it's up to him, you can. Like, and that it's good because we're both like clean people. So like he takes care of the cleaning and I take care of the tidying. But like, I think that there's definitely like, there's usually like two opposing viewpoints in a marriage about what is considered clean, what's considered tidy. And they're usually like very much more like black and white than we are.
Yeah. So I think Hashem does it on purpose, that we marry someone who is not like us so that we can force each other to grow,
Right. I agree.
There is something so beautiful about that. And a lot of people don't like it. And I know it's very difficult and it adds all this, unnecessary stress, which is actually exactly what causes you to grow. Because if you don't get agitated and like, see things that bother you, then what are you doing here? Just sitting around with your feet up? Like the point is growth. So I really like that. A couple of questions that came up today in the park.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Is that their house is a complete mess and their husband doesn't help. And they wish they can just get rid of all of their husband's stuff because it's all his fault, blah, blah, blah. So I like that because that's something that you talk about in the course. I am taking your course, Conquer Your Clutter, and I'm loving it. But something that you talk about is don't touch other people's stuff.
I lost you for a second. You said something that I talk about is don't touch other people's stuff.
Other people's stuff.
Yeah.
And I said that and they were like, so what do you want from me? You know, it's almost like.
So here's what I found. When you take care of your own stuff, when you are focused on fixing yourself, other people get on the bandwagon because your life is improving and they want a piece of that. So for example, if you make the decision to tidy up let's say your bedroom, okay? Because that's your shared space with your spouse. So if you make a decision to go through all the stuff in your bedroom, get rid of whatever you're not using, put away the rest and make it tidy, it's going to be very obvious to your husband that the rest of the stuff is not yours. And it will be motivating for him to put it away. And if it isn't, that's okay. You have to be like, okay with the fact that maybe it's not going to like, oh, I'm waving my magic wand and now it's going to be okay, right? Like people need to get to that on their own, but it's going to be more apparent that he has to get there. And if the stuff is like in your way, so you have two options. Either you have a few options actually. You can force him to go through it with you. And a lot of times that's just what people need. Children too. They need somebody to just say, hey, I'd like to go through this with you.
I do that.
They need the partnership, you know? That's super important.
Out of me. It takes so much out of me to sit myself down and go through the stuff. And I have to.
It's hard.
And I finally did it when my mother was in my house for a couple of minutes, and I was like, okay, that's it. Help me. Let's just take it all out. Like, I could do the rest. I just need that first push.
Yeah, you need the push. Yeah. So
like
that's,
by the way,
exactly.
This is something that we talked about because I had a really hard time with my bedroom.
Right.
And of course, I blamed it on my husband because that's the best, most easiest thing to do.
Right.
And it's natural, and you should all just feel really great about yourselves.
Like the Clutter Aussie does.
I emptied out my whole closet onto the bed, and I took a picture because it was really that amazing. And then
because you don't realize how much stuff you have.
No.
Right.
And just hidden so well in there. It's just so
yes.
I took it all out and we wiped down everything, and then I made 7 giveaway bags, like garbage bags. I was so proud of myself, and it was only thanks to you and your help. And the coolest thing happened next. My husband said, I should do that to my stuff too. Of course, he didn't do it yet, but it totally worked. It's like that spark of
yet. The key word there is yet. Like he wants to. You lit the fire under him.
And you know what? One day it will happen. It doesn't bother me that it's not happened yet because it's behind his closed closet. So it doesn't really affect me as much. And the thing that didn't affect me, I actually made him a box, like you said, and said, you can go through this when you're ready. And
did you do it?
Sort of. Some.
Okay, so that was what I was going to say next was if your partner is not ready, if your child is not ready, whomever is not ready to deal with the clutter and it is affecting you, then what I always tell people is box it up. Tell the person whose problem it is, like, you have 1 month, you have 2 months, you have 3 months. I'm putting this box wherever. If you don't go through it by the date that I write on the outside of the box, then I'm just going to throw it away. And it puts the onus on them. It gives them this like superficial deadline because you need to make space in your house. And I think what's really important to understand, not just with your spouse, but also with your kids, is like you all live in this space together. And you all need to be responsible for each other. And more than being responsible for each other, you all need to be understanding of what other people need. And
respect, respect.
I mean, with kids, it's our job to help them improve their executive function. I think that it's a learned skill. With husbands, it's not really our job to do that. However, we are their partners. And so like, if that is not something that they're good at, we can say, hey, I can help you with this. And I think that a lot of times they appreciate you coming to them and being like, I can help you if you want. And if you don't want me, I'm happy to hire somebody else to help you, or ask your brother or ask your sister or ask your mother or whomever to move you forward, to propel you, because the buddy system is super important when you're decluttering.
Yes. And that's actually something I realized that I'm going to have to, once September hits and we finally get into a little bit of a rhythm again, me and my friend are going to come to each other's houses. So that's going to be really
excellent. Fun. That's perfect. Like, it doesn't have to be a pro. It helps sometimes when you put money on the table. In fact, something very interesting happened to me tonight. A few months ago, I gave a talk, I don't know, someplace in the Merkaz. And this lady came to me afterwards and said, I must have you. And I said, great, I'm happy to come to your house. And we talked on the phone a few times, and she's like, this was like in January. And she's like, you know what? I decided I'm going to do it myself. I'm like, good luck to you. Guess who called me tonight? The same lady. She's like, I'm moving in October. I can't do it. I should be able to figure out how to throw this stuff out myself, but I can't. And if you can't, and you have no one else to help you, like, sometimes putting money on the table is like a really great motivator, because you don't want to foolishly spend that money, and you want to maximize your time with the person. So it makes it easier to actually let things go, because you want the time to be productive.
Also, I found this in my own experience. When I was doing everything on my own with my business, I was going forward. I was definitely getting somewhere, and I was definitely going the right direction. But when I finally paid for a coach and was like, okay, I'm committed to doing this and making it work, then suddenly, like, you just start flying, and
You
you're
go
like,
much faster. Yeah.
and
Because it's the
now
hand-holding.
commitment I have to make sure I get, like, I squeeze out every penny out of this investment, because it really is. And you know what? I see that the women who work with me are the same way, because they paid for having a happy marriage. They're going to do whatever it takes to get that happy marriage and to
Right.
make themselves, in a healthy way, get to their goal. So they go
Right.
step and one step and one step, and because it's like a weekly thing, so you have enough time to like digest, then get on to the next step.
Exactly.
And suddenly you turn around, you're like, I went up all those steps.
Yeah.
Like, I'm up here now, and these things don't bother me anymore. And I'm actually having fun with my husband. We're going for walks, and we have something to talk about. It changes everything, And I think that, as before, complaining about the clutter and the things that he's leaving behind and whatever, and now you're finally talking on a different level, which really is.
Well, you're holding yourself responsible, which is a big deal, because you're basically shifting it from, and I know you talk about this a lot, but you're basically shifting it from his problem to your problem. And instead of looking at it as like, okay, well, this is his problem, or with kids, it's my kid's problem, right?
Yeah.
It's my problem. It's my job. In the case of like a husband, it's my job to be their partner. In a case of a child, it's my job to be their teacher. But it's important to frame that appropriately, because sometimes we look at our husbands and we're like, it's my job to be their teacher, but it's not.
The three different.
We have to be their support system, and we have to say like, hey, I can help you do X if you feel ready. And a lot of times, like, one thing that I've been working hard on with myself is telling my husband exactly what I need. And sometimes it takes me a while to figure out exactly what I need. Like, I told my husband a few months ago, I'm like, I can't handle the food anymore. I can't handle making dinner for myself, like something myself that I want to eat for my health and my whatever, and make something for the kids and you. And I need your help. And I need to take this off my proverbial plate, right? And when I could express it in that way to him, it was easy for him to say yes, rather than for me to say to him, like, I just need you to help me, right? Because that's not specific. So if you need your husband to help you do something in terms of organization, then if you're specific with him about what you need, that's going to be like super helpful, number one. And number two is it's going to help you. Like, if you can figure out exactly what it is you need, honey, I need you to make sure you wash the dishes after each time you use something, because I feel like I can't stay on top of it. Or I need you to help me fold the laundry, and maybe it's something we could do together because I just feel like it's getting out of control. So like, if you can divide these household tasks up together, I mean, sometimes my husband and I sit down and we watch TV and we fold the laundry. Like, okay, it's not like super romantic, but it's,
we're romantic.
We're sitting together, we're talking, we're watching TV, like, okay, we're together. Like, that's the important part. And I think that
it comes back to the 5 love languages. Sometimes all we need is just quality time, and it doesn't have to be something very luxurious.
Exactly. So I think it's really important to express what it is in the area of your home, that's to figure it out, and then express it to whomever it needs to be expressed to, so that you can get what you need out of your relationship, out of your life, but mostly so you can live your best life. So Like one of the things in our house that I wanted to do was I wanted to go zero waste, because I believe that zero waste is a big part of organization, because when you think about like the KonMari method, let's say Marie Kondo, like basically it's great. People use it as a verb, right? I'm KonMariing my house. I'm going to get all the stuff I don't need out of my house. But there's no long-term maintenance strategy involved with that method. And so for me, one of the things that
the extreme.
Right, exactly. And but it's very easy to get back into that habit of buying and bringing stuff into your house. And so I decided to move into the zero waste lifestyle, and we're not zero waste, but like we're low waste. And one of the things that I said to my husband, I was like, when we go grocery shopping, I'd like it if you could also use these certain bags. And I explained to him why. I said, because what happens is if we use the plastic bags, first of all, they're terrible for the environment, but then you're bringing in all these. Okay, let's be honest. You have a bag of bags in your house, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So then you have a bag of bags, or you have 10 bag of bags.
No, we have that one thing, from IKEA, the half circle.
Yeah.
And as long as, once it gets to the top, then that's the amount of bags I let.
Okay. But most people don't ration them in that, they're like, oh, well, this is going to be useful. I'm going to keep it. And then they have like 10 bags of bags. And it's crazy. And then you're trying to organize these bags all the time. And, there's this very, I need it, so I can't get rid of it. And I get that. I totally get that. But at the same time, that's part of your clutter problem. And it was brought into your house by you. And you created this problem. And so it's not only a problem for you, it's also a problem for the environment. And so that's why I feel like zero waste is a very, very important maintenance strategy in organization. So when I wanted to move in that direction, I sat down and I'm like, okay, what are the things, and we had this discussion, what are the things we could reasonably do to reduce our waste? And over time, we have added more things. But it makes a difference in our life. It helps keep our clutter under control, because even garbage is clutter, we just think of it in a different way because it's garbage. But like, who really wants to take out the garbage every single day, twice a day even?
Yeah.
Do you do that?
Baruch Hashem, I am not in charge of taking out garbage. So I don't think I am aware enough of how often it comes out, but it's definitely once a day.
Right. So we went from around between daily to, I would say, so like 7 bags a day to like between 7 and 12. A week. We went from like 7 to 12 bags a week to like 1.
Ooh. So what do you do with all your peels and things like that? You actually
compost.
Compost? That's awesome.
Yeah. We compost. Yeah.
So we do that
and
too.
And that took time for my husband to get used to, but he sees the value in it now.
So that's really awesome. I love that you have such healthy communication between the two of you.
Well, we're not perfect.
Yes. No, it is. One of the things that I am very passionate about is being authentic and showing people the real story behind who we are, because we're not perfect. So
we're not.
It's fine. Like, if we're not perfect, you can feel fine about not being perfect, because we're all in this together.
Exactly.
It's really important. Okay. A couple of things that I love about what you do is, like you were saying before, you could do it yourself with a buddy or whatever, but it's not just the decluttering. It's the maintenance and learning skills. The learned skills that you give in your course overall is just incredible. From meal planning to time management, those are things that you don't consider when you think of clutter, when you don't consider it when you think of organized. And suddenly it all just sort of comes together. And also this zero waste and the fact that you address all of the Jewish issues that could come up. Those are all things that are special to you. Like, from everything that I've seen and tried and whatever, this is a reason why I really love your whole, persona, that you put it all together.
I mean, I think that when you're a religious Jew, even if you're not religious necessarily, there's this whole other set of like, everybody talks about like Catholic guilt, but like Jewish guilt is super strong. Jewish guilt is like mega strong. And when you have a larger family, it makes things difficult to stay organized. But more than that, I think there are so many things that we have in our homes as Jews, religious or not religious, that we would never have,
right?
If it wasn't for the fact that like, okay, so like I'm sitting in front of my Shabbos candles, right? Like I would never have candlesticks or any kind of candles in my house if it wasn't for that I had to light Shabbos candles every week. Like who lights candles? Like
people who light candles, very hygge.
Right. But like those kind of candles are different than these kind of candles. Like they light like the big fat scented candles or whatever. Like people don't like, they're not lighting tapers really. Like I wouldn't have a honey dish and a kiddush cup and a washing cup and a challah knife and a challah board and a challah cover and all of these things that feel like extraneous a lot of the time but there are things that we use, they're important to our ritual. And that's totally different than like KonMari. Does it bring me joy to have these things? No, not really. But I use them every week and therefore I can't let them go. And actually that's one of my biggest pet peeves. It's like the bring me joy thing. It's such like a bad barometer of what to keep and what to toss. It's like, I don't want my challah board, but we need a challah board. I don't want my mortgage papers, but I can't throw them away. Do you know what I mean? It's like you have to, it's not about everything that brings you joy. It has to be some sort of like balance between what is actually essential to keep and what's not. And I think that that's a different threshold than what most people.
Right. So, I mean, I actually like that. I like that a lot. You were talking about Jewish guilt. I think just with food and food waste, that's one of the biggest things. Is like, if you grew up with any, it doesn't matter if you're Ashkenaz or Sephardi, you have it. You have it from something, Don't throw out food and don't, waste and all these things. And it's like, if you're organized, you actually get to the point where you're not throwing out food. And and like, that's another thing you teach is how to actually run your week where you're planning the meals and making sure you have all the food and not too much, not too little. It's just like so perfect.
Okay, so I try in our house to not have food waste. I'm not saying that a tomato or a plum or a cucumber never goes rotten sitting on my kitchen table. That definitely happens because my mother always said, I can't crawl inside. Like you can't crawl inside. You don't know like where it's at in its life cycle. So it's not like things never go bad, but we are constantly assessing what we have. And like, because we are sort of planning and giving different nights of the week, like certain food, like not priorities, but routines, we are able to, it's 9:30. Come on. We are able to reduce what we waste because we've been more thoughtful about what we were purchasing.
Yeah.
And
saying about like, you being different than other people I've spoken to, because you bring it all together, as opposed to
it's related.
You don't have organizing your home as a vacuum. You actually create a whole system that is, affected or worked together. I don't know how to explain this, but you guys understand.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say is like, it's bigger than just putting a bunch of stuff in boxes.
Yeah.
Like being organized is more than that.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why it has so much to do with marriage, because marriage is the same way. Like your work will affect marriage, money will affect marriage, or your home will affect marriage. Everything is all tangled up. And so when your marriage isn't doing well and something is off and you're having these really annoying situations where you're either bickering about things or you're picking on little things or you're seeing only the negatives and all these different things just come up to the surface. And sometimes when you take care of one thing, the other things sort of
I agree. But I actually think that for most people, their organizational skills or lack thereof, or the state of their house really is an external representation of the internal struggle. I have to think about how to say that because it's late. It's like it's manifesting, the internal struggle is manifesting itself as clutter because for whatever reason we are dissatisfied with our internal selves. And so we're shopping or we're eating or we're just not taking care of the house because we can't manage to take care of anything outside of ourselves. It's a struggle sometimes for us just to take care of ourselves, like just to brush our teeth or take a shower, right? Like for some women, that's a really big problem. And what that is the inner struggle just manifesting itself externally. And it sometimes it trickles out into other areas of our lives besides for just clutter, financially, in terms of food, in terms of our relationship with other people, all these different things that are really complex. And if we can't, when we work on those aspects of ourselves, what you were saying is that it creates this domino effect. And it does help. But specifically with the clutter, I find more than anything else, I find that when you can actually clean out the clutter and get rid of the excess, that has a tremendous amount of power to get you to the place you want to be, to get you to your goals. Because what it does is it creates this space to let blessing and bounty come into your life so that you can move forward. Because blessing and bounty, it doesn't have to just be stuff. It can be enlightenment. It can be improved relationships. Like, we don't have room sometimes to work on those things because there's so much external noise. But really, if we would get rid of the noise, our lives would be so much better. And you wouldn't even necessarily have to do anything else additional for it to make a big difference.
Yeah. So, and that's, you just touched on something that I wanted to talk about, which was my favorite thing about what you do is you bring Hashem into the whole system. So it's, when we talk about the things that we have, you have everything you need. And so even if you get rid of it now, because you don't need it right now, when you need it, you will have it. Hashem takes care of you. And all this, the concept of allowing new shefa, new abundance into your life by making room for it. That was such a huge thing for me, by the way. It totally works. I felt the difference. It totally does. I took 7 bags out of the house and was like, done. Not, you're not mine anymore. And it was really hard. Don't get me wrong. It was so hard. I felt like I was breaking myself. Did you find money? Did you find money, or did you get a new client afterwards?
Yes.
See? Yes. I didn't find money in the stuff, but I just felt so much lighter. I felt so much more open. I felt so.
I have to tell you, I have 2 clients, both of whom wanted to have a baby. And I said to them both separately and totally, how could you have a baby? Where are you going to put it? Was it you're going to suspend it from the ceiling? Where will you even put it? I'm like, if you want to have a baby, you have to make space for it, because it's not that babies take up so much space, but like all this other stuff is emotionally holding you back from actually being able to do it because you don't physically have the space. So like, and God can't give you something you don't have the space for.
Right. And you just touched on all that, you know, it's just a representation of what's going on inside. And it really felt like I was breaking myself in order to create something new. And that's exactly what it feels like when I'm being coached or when someone else is being coached by me. It's just like, let's find the root of the problem and deal with it and then get on with what we need 100%. To do. It just is so incredible.
Yeah. And to me, I feel like what you said before about like Hashem, I mean, some people don't believe in that and that's fine, but it's like the universe or karma or whatever you believe in.
All my people believe in Hashem.
But I'm just saying, like, for sometimes when I'm talking, I mean, look, I grew up religious, and I think I didn't learn this idea until probably around 10 years ago from Chaya Hinda Allen. And I grew up religious, and I still, like, there was always this like spiritually missing aspect from what I learned like in school or what I learned from my parents. And not that anybody did a bad job, just like it's not how people teach things really, I think. And
it's definitely a disconnect. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was something that I came to like much later on. And when I realized like, okay, I have the power to control what I'm thinking, and that my thoughts create this balance in my life as well. So when I can control that I'm thinking like Hashem is going to give me what I need, I feel secure in saying about an object like, I thank you so much for this bracha. I no longer need this bracha. I can pass it on to somebody else, and I can open myself up to new bracha. And my friend Helen's going to be on one of your things in a few weeks, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So Helen always says, she's like, she holds her hands up like this, and she's like, you can't see, but I'm holding my hands up like, Hashem, I'm ready for the bracha, right? Like, once you've made the space for it, you can say like, okay, I am ready for this to come into my life because now I have cleared the physical space, which, by the way, helps clear the emotional space, and it opens us up and it allows us to accept these things. But what is the hardest part is training your mind to say, I will be okay without this item. If I need something again, I will get it. And if I don't get it, then I don't need it. And people always say to me like, well, what about, people in the Holocaust, or what about people who have, food scarcity or all these different things? And I'm not here to like poskin over those people, but what I will say about it is that like, it's definitely a state of mind. When we believe that we will have what we need, most of the time we're happier with less, and we're comfortable with less, and we find satisfaction and gratitude in what we have. And that is what I think is missing from most people's lives, because it's like this need to want more and more and more, when really we should just be grateful for what we actually already have.
Yes. So Helen is coming on Monday. Don't miss it. And then we're probably going to have Yael from Jewish Latin Princess.
Yeah, she's great too.
Also. And Debbie Sasson. And when Debbie Sasson was talking about this exact thing, where she spoke about success greed, where wherever you are in your business, you're always going to think, I'm not there yet. I want to be somewhere else. I want to be in the next step. So she says, she made us write a list of 25 things we want. It was very difficult. I only got to 6 because there wasn't enough time and I just couldn't come up with things.
Right.
But one of the things was, I want more rooms in the house because I want everybody to live comfortably. And so she said, after everything that you wrote, right on the bottom of it, something that you already have that you once wanted, and be grateful for that. Not only be grateful, but really want it. Anyway, I went back. I'm like, oh, so I should be, I should realize that the rooms I already have are, obviously I have them. I have some rooms, wanting more rooms is nice, but I have the rooms I have. And then I realized, oh my gosh, that means I actually have to take care of them and want them. So I went on this like crazy, clean up all the floors and make it look nice, because it finally hit that because I was so busy wanting more, I wasn't taking care of what I had. I wasn't as motivated to clean up and do things. And that's where
a big problem is, a lot of the times, is we just have too much. And it's not possible to... Susie Orman, she's like a financial guru. She always says, people first, then stuff. And it's something that has really stuck with me, because I feel like that's the whole point, is connecting to our families, to our husband, to our siblings, to our parents. Like, if we are always taking care of our stuff, we have less time to connect to the people who are important to us. So like, it might seem a lot of times like something is saving us time or saving us energy, but in reality, if you took a hard look at how much time you spend maintaining certain things, you would find that it doesn't actually save you. Like, you think that it saves you time to have more clothes. Not you. You.
I do. I mean,
people think.
I did my closet. I'm not done with my kids' closet. I usually do that before school starts, because we switch over to school shirts and things like that.
But people think,
it's true. It wastes so much of my time.
Because all you're doing all the time is organizing the stuff. When if you just had less stuff, 50% of the time, 50% of it would be in the laundry.
Right.
And the other 50% of it is being used or ready to use. And like, I mean, let's be honest. Come on. If you have a family with kids, and even if it's just two people, the washing machines here in Israel, I mean, maybe this isn't true if you live in the US, but the washing machines here in Israel are not that big. You are doing the laundry every day, every other day. Maybe you're stretching to every third day, but like, how much stuff do you really need? And if you took a hard look at what you actually used, you would see that you're wearing the same things over and over and over and over again, because like, those are your favorite things.
Right. And that was one of the things that pushed me over the edge to actually do my closet, was when you pushed us to write exactly what we actually want to have. And then I realized there was a lot of things that I didn't really want to have anyway. I just sort of had it because just in case or whatever. So it really was so helpful.
If you haven't lived through just in case right now with Corona, it's not going to be just in case,
Oh, that's such a good point.
Like, now's the just in case.
This was the just in case.
Yeah.
Okay. So our time is almost done. So if anybody has any questions, write them in the comments and we will answer them. If not, or while you're doing that, let me just thank you for coming and be super grateful for the fact that I got to talk to Rebekah Saltzman. I love you. Stay tuned. Next week, we're having at least 2, if not 3 lives. And the week after, we're having a couple more. So I'm super excited about this, summer live event that I'm having with myself. I'm having so much fun. Definitely go like Rebekah's page, which is it Journey to Organization?
So the podcast is Journey to Organization. You can like the podcast page on Facebook. You could join the Facebook group Organizing in Israel.
Oh, yes.
And you don't have to live in Israel to join, but there's lots of non-Israelis in the group. But it's definitely a little geared more towards Israel. But we are happy to answer any and all organizing questions in the group. And
Aliyah, you have this whole thing for
Aliyah.
Aliyah.
I do have a whole thing about Aliyah.
Oh my gosh, and that's one of the things that is. You're welcome. You're not. Thank you. That's one of the things that is, a big issue, a big, subject right now that is coming up.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk about it if there's still time. It's your call.
to give a 2-minute thing about it if you'd like.
Sure. So I actually lecture on this for Nefesh B'Nefesh. You can see on my website the lecture. You can link back. The lecture is linked on YouTube. But how to pack for Aliyah and how to prepare. And on my website there, you can download a free Aliyah planning guide. But basically, for Aliyah, I find that what the biggest issue most people have is that they're coming from a giant house, and even if they're buying another house that might be like equal or similar in square footage, the rooms are usually smaller, the corridors are smaller, the space is less good, if you will. Like, it's not designed in the same way, because like maybe you have a 4-bedroom house in America, the bedrooms in Israel, if you have a 4-bedroom house, are going to be a little bit smaller. They're just, the plots are different. It's different. And you just need to clear out as much stuff, because honestly, like, spending money to ship it across the sea is crazy. Like, most of my clients throw out a quarter of the stuff over time once they get here that they've paid to ship. Minimum a quarter. And it's like, well, then why did you pay to bring it?
Right.
And people get nervous, and it's that same like, oh, I'm so scared. What if I need it? Because, Israel's a third world country. It's not. We have stores. If you're unsure, fine, bring it. But like, don't have to bring like the whole world with you.
Yes. And my point to them is, you don't have to bring your problems, your marriage problems with you. So if you actually take care of them now, they do not disappear.
If you don't disappear.
Yes, if you don't take care of them, they will just come with you, and it really is a lot more difficult when you have all that added stress from learning new things and trying to figure out life in Israel. So, best time to deal with your marriage and anything that you want to, declutter out of your wonderful life. This is the time. So, if anybody wants to work with me, I actually have a couple of spots opening up. So, be in touch. My website is ConnectedForReal.com, and I am on Facebook, Connected for Real, and on YouTube, Rebbetzin Bat-Chen Grossman, and on Instagram also. So anyway, I am not all the places, but
a lot of them.
I like my Facebook and Instagram. They're fun, and you can't do videos without YouTube. So I'm in all three.
All right.
So thank you so much, you guys. Have a wonderful night or day, whatever you are in the world. And if you have any questions, feel free to send them to us. Even if you're watching the rerun, we will answer them. So thank you. Thank you.